so warm and wild and free. You'll always stay with me here in my heart. My land is Kenya, right from your highlands to the sea. You'll always stay with me here in my heart, here in my heart. Only got one childhood and the memory that springs when you see your house, the tree you climbed, and all those precious things. The faces of the friends I had, the images that form. When I close my eyes in the land I love, the land where I was born. My land is Kenya, so warm and wild and free. You'll always stay with me here in my heart. My land is Kenya, right from your highlands to the sea. You'll always stay with me here in my heart, here in my heart. My land is Kenya, right from your highlands to the sea. You'll always stay with me here in my heart, here in my heart.
A global namaste, a very good afternoon, a good evening, or a very good morning to whichever part of the globe you're all joining us on this 39th consecutive MINLA Zoom session. MINLA means Meena and Lalit Soda. We started these Zoom sessions in April 2020 during the first lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And this was done primarily to spread love, happiness, and harmony to the whole globe. And during the lockdown, this has been extremely well received. Today, MINLA is truly delighted to have collaborated in celebrating the International Women's Day that is coming up very, very shortly. MINLA is also excited with the two extraordinary speakers that we have with us today by the name Rupal Sachdev Kantaria and Rupa Ganatra Popat. We really want to hear from these two outstanding ladies what International Women's Day is all about, what it means to them, why they are so committed to the supporting the movement, and how they're going to make a huge difference. This particular day, it has been 112 years since the first year in which International Women's Day was marked. There is an opportunity here to pay tribute to many inspiring examples of the women throughout history who have advocated for gender equality, but to those who work tirelessly to improve the lives of women and girls around the world. Many of these challenges lie today within us in the damaging attitudes that still exist about what it is meant to be a boy or a girl. Today, we are truly honored to be joined by these two eminent ladies, Rupa and Rupal, who are trailblazers in their field and are committed to changing these stereotypes and promote gender equality and female empowerment, as we call Nari Shakti. For the last 4 years, they have been holding the International Women's Day in the United Kingdom Parliament by making history and opening up the debate to the non-parliamentarians, giving them a voice to speak out. Over the years, they've had a number of outstanding speakers who have come and commemorated this particular day. This year, however, due to the pandemic, the debate will be held virtually. However, it provides a unique opportunity for the first time for this debate, which would usually be open only to about 150 people due to the number of spaces allocated in the rooms. This will now be open to hundreds, if not thousands, of the people worldwide. You know, we truly want to hear about this from them. So before we start this, I would love to introduce the two dynamic women who are with us, and we'll start with the introduction of Rupal Sachdev Kantaria. Rupal is a partner at a global management consultancy, Oliver Wyman. She works primarily in the Oliver Wyman The Forum, a diverse community of private, public, and the third sector. Third sector influences engaging together to create ideas and practically test solutions to the shared global challenges. Rupal also co-leads Oliver Wyman's UK Social Impact team, serves as a strategic advisor at the 30% Club, and is a board trustee for the Lullaby Trust. She has co-founded 2 social mission movements. Mission include driving inclusive culture and corporates, and John Give igniting the social conscience in families. That is a wonderful, dynamic lady, Rupal Sachdev Kantaria. A global namaste to you, Rupal. How are you today?
I'm very well and very much looking forward to being here with you today.
Thank you. And on to the next lovely, dynamic lady here. We have Rupa Ganatra Popat, I believe. Rupa advises companies on growth, innovations, and digital transformations, working with the government's private equity, SMEs, and large corporations. She is active in the startup community as an angel investor in underrepresenting founders, a non-executive director at Jinkona, a board advisor at RLC Ventures, a founding freeman of the Guild of Entrepreneurs, and a startup mentor for the Mayor of London. As a serial entrepreneur, she co-founded several profitable SMEs and sold the majority shareholdings in 2019 to Hong Kong-listed Pico Group. She's passionate about contributing to the advancement of women and children, and is involved in several initiatives, including the Ashray Initiative for Children that supports street children in India. Ladies and gentlemen, we certainly have the dynamic duo of Rupa and Rupal with us today. Moving on further with the show, the MINLA Zoom sessions start once we have a traditional welcome by our lovely lady, Mrs. Meena Ben Kagram, who is in a small flamingo town of Nakuru right now, and she's hosting the Zoom session from there. She's a inspiring lady because at her given age of 75, she has all this capacity, the enthusiasm, the excitement of going through with women empowerment and hosting such wonderful MINLA shows. Meena Ben, the floor is all yours for a traditional welcome to our dynamic duo, Rupa and Rupal.
Thank you, Lalit bhai. Well, Dollar bhai knows that I do this is a traditional, there is a tilak for you both. And of course, Dollar bhai and Sandhya Ben, protocol. Dollar bhai, this is for you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you.
And this is for Rupa.
Thank you.
And this is for you, Rupal.
Oh, thank you.
Can you see?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Pranams.
Thank you. Okay. Global Namaskar to all. Welcome. Karibu, Karibu, Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. Welcome to Nakuru town of the world famous flamingos, wildlife and bird country of the fastest runner in the world, Eliud Kipchoge. As always, Dr. Lalit, my cute cousin, and myself, MINLA Group, are super excited to welcome you all. Short introduction of Dr. Lalit is that he is a famous chiropractic, author, and world-class public speaker. He is also a recipient of some awards. Humbly, he says, no need to mention Meena Ben. Secret, ladies and gentlemen, last week he received the Marwa Award for journalism. Welcome, Dollar bhai. I would say કે તમે એક રાજા છો, અહલ્યાના સસરા છો, જે એની વહુને આગળ લાવવા માટે એને રાણી બનાવો છો. Congratulations. I feel very proud of you. Welcome, twin girls, Rup. Welcome to, I would have said Bhagwati, but I think she hasn't reached yet to India. She was on her way from California. Welcome to all here and who are logged in our Facebook Live. Over to you, Lalit.
Thank you very much, Miraben, for those very kind words. So moving forward and not taking any other further minutes from the audience about this very special International Women's Day, we would love to be in conversation with Rup, as we say, Rupa and Rupal. So the first question, Rupal, if that's okay with you, may I direct that question to you?
Sure.
Sure, okay. Now, I'd love to hear this. You girls have been involved for some years in organizing the International Women's Day and the event at the UK Parliament. How did it all begin? Would you be able to enlighten us with that, please?
Sure. So 4 years ago, Lord and Lady Popat were hosting a traditional parliamentary debate, and they invited various family members to speak. They have, as many people may know, they wanted to give an insight into Parliament and share their platform with others. And Rupa and I both went along to speak, not really knowing what to expect. And we were really inspired and keen to drive further change. And then Lord, Lady Popat, Rupa, and also Councillor Amit Jogia, the 5 of us had come together in the following 4 years to expand and diversify the speakers that we've hosted each year.
Amazing. So it all started from that inspiration from what Lord Popat had organized at the Houses of Parliament. Now,
And
you
Lady
ladies
Popat.
have grown, pardon me?
Lord and Lady Popat.
Lord and Lady Popat, yes. I don't mean to exclude Lady Popat, my apologies for that. Yes, so the two of them actually started this event, and 4 years it has been. You've had an amazing number of speakers, people from different walks of life, different genders, and some celebrity speakers, and you've chosen everybody from, as we say, all walks of life. How did you manage to get all the speakers, and what inspired you to look into them? Rupa, may I ask you that?
Absolutely. So I think every year when we look at curating the speaker program for the year ahead, we actually start work about 9 months to 12 months in advance, so shortly after the event finishes. And we start to look at the key trends which have been impacting women, race, ageism, all of these different kind of topics that are dear to our hearts. And we look at who has been maybe pioneering or who has gone through an experience. And we look to curate really diverse speaker list, as you mentioned, Dr. Lalit. So this year, because of COVID, it was even more important for us to really think, COVID has in some ways really set us back in progress for women and gender equality. And so we really looked at what are the key things that have happened and who are the speakers that can really drive change and drive inspiration in those topics. So for example, at our event on Friday, we've got Keisha McLeod, who's sadly, her 14-year-old son was killed in gang violence and youth violence in the UK. And since that, she's been pioneering and campaigning and being the voice for youth violence and government change in that respect. So she's going to be sharing her story and the work that she's doing. And it's there to, for all of us to educate ourselves on what's happening, in that space. We also have a 13-year-old philanthropist who started her charitable activities at the age of 8, who will be speaking on Friday. And her message is clear: age is no barrier to the impact that we can make in life. And so we really try, as you said, and look to create that diverse platform of content to share.
Perfect. I like that. Age is not a barrier. We can see our Mrs. Meena Ben Khagram at the age of 75 zooming around the globe. So age should definitely not be a barrier for advancement. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. There is a lot that goes behind organizing this event that is happening, and it's happening on Friday the 5th. Rupal, would you be able to share some thoughts on how people are going to find out about this event? How people can actually attend this event? What do they need to do? Is it a closed environment? Is it open to the whole wide world?
So as Rupa mentioned, and you mentioned in your intro, that we're so lucky that this year one is not allowed to broadcast from Parliament. So even though we have wanted to share it with others in the past, we've been unable to, given parliamentary protocols. So this year it is open to everybody. Everybody's very welcome to join. And we can share the registration link perhaps in the chat afterwards. It is on various social media platforms. It's on Zoom, just a little bit like this. And we can register and you can see the brochure of what the lineup is. People may not know about the traditional format of a parliamentary debate. I didn't before 4 years ago. So although it's called a debate, actually there's no sort of for and against. Each person speaks for 5 minutes. And 5 minutes only, and they're interrupted if they go longer. So it's very bite-sized for our increasingly short attention spans. And the whole event lasts less than an hour and a half.
Wow, so it's all monitored, time monitored with 5 minutes given to each speaker. That's a brilliant event. Rupa, thank you for sharing the link on the chat group. That's very kind of you. Ladies and gentlemen, as this is being also shared live on Facebook, if you would like to have a link, we will be posting that link live on Facebook as to how to register for this session that is coming up on the Friday, the 5th of March, marking the International Women's Day. Perfect. So the next question goes to Rupa, if that's okay with you. Rupa, what do you expect the attendees of this particular event on the 5th? What do you want them to walk away with? What's the message that you're all trying to get to them?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, Dr. Lalit. I think for me, my mind has expanded year on year, my awareness, my knowledge, and I'm really grateful for these events because I myself am learning, more and more about what needs to be done. So if there was one thing that attendees could walk away with, it would be them understanding the challenges that are faced ahead, and maybe picking one tangible change that they themselves can make in their own lives or in their community or in their workplace that can help us progress to a more, equal platform and playing field in the future. We also just want people to be inspired by the speakers and their stories and their journeys, and really just come and enjoy these bite-sized pieces of content. So
can I add something, Dr. Lalit?
Of course, Rupal, you may.
Which is, I'd really love to see men engaging, and we have some really powerful role models, so that men don't think that female empowerment is a women's issue, because it really is a human issue. And the fact that Lord Popat has really been in the center of trying to drive change for women, and I know I have some really wonderful role models in my life who have changed their view, and we're all changing together, that it's not a zero-sum game. In my father-in-law, my father, my husband, we're all on a journey together.
Now that's brilliant. You have the very special man at the center of this particular event who actually set it all up with his lovely lady. So men definitely should be backing up, as Lord Popat is backing this event up so nicely. And I think this message should go out wide globally, that it is a men and women's event, men in encouraging these kind of events to take place too. And yes, I think that's a very, very fair point, Rupal. So we must encourage all the men also to participate in this event. I believe you also have some male speakers in this particular event happening on the 5th of March. Is that correct?
Yeah, we always try and diversify and invite men. This year we've got a really great male speaker called Jay Shetty, who is many of you may have heard of him. He's a best-selling author, a podcast host, and he recently wrote the best-selling book, Think Like a Monk. And so he will be sharing his timeless wisdom and offering insights into purposeful living during his speech on Friday.
He's a very inspirational man. I must say I'm so privileged and proud to say that I had some association with him when he was a monk, not when he was in New York, but prior to that. So a very inspirational man, yes, and he's a great speaker too. That's wonderful. So here, I'd like to ask you also, to both of you, first Rupal and then to Rupa, you ladies get inspired. What is it that inspires you so much about the International Women's Day? Rupal, that's your first question to you.
I think it's an opportunity. Every day should be a day of equality for men and for women. So it's not that there are always these jokes that go round of, well, what about Men's Day? And every day is, Women's Day because, my wife calls the shots or whatever. But if we take it a little bit, then that's all kind of fun in jest. But International Women's Day still exists 100+ years since it started, because women face such disparate outcomes versus men. They account for 2/3 of the world's poorest. They perform 2/3 of the world's work, and they produce 50% of the world's food, but only 10% of the world's income. And this isn't something that is just happening in less economically prosperous countries. This is happening in the UK with the gender pay gap we see it still persists. So the reason that I think we all put in so much effort for this day is because we feel very passionately that women are really critical to uplifting all of society. It's not just about women uplifting themselves, but we know if we invest in a woman, we invest in a family and in a whole community.
Brilliant add to that. Yes, thank you for saying that. That's a great point you've made, Rupal, over there. Moving on, I just wanted to move to this particular event that you are organizing on the 5th, and a question comes up, is the theme for this year's International Women's Day is Choose to Challenge. What are the biggest challenges that you find as women, that women are facing in today's society?
Yeah.
Shall we address that to you first?
Absolutely. So there are so many challenges, as Rupal was just adhering to, whether that's education, access to basic hygiene resources, the ability to vote, to have careers, basic freedoms that even we take for granted here in the UK. And even in the UK, there is so much to challenge, you know, whether it's in our homes, in our communities, or in our workplaces. You know, you've got unequal pay, you've got investment funding, harassment, racism in the workplace. There are so many things. If you look at the gender pay gap, even in 2020, women are earning over 15% less than men in the same job. And that's, you know, that's still an issue, even though we've been talking about it and we've had all these great initiatives, it's still an issue in 2021. The other thing is if you look at the world of entrepreneurship, which is something I'm really passionate about, still in the UK today, only 1% of venture capital funding will go to a business that's founded by 2 women, and 99% going to either male founders or male and female founders together. So there's such a long way to go. And if you're a Black female founder, you get less than 0.5% of the access to the funding. So these are just few examples. There are so many, but there's so many things that we can work on and we can choose to challenge.
And it's a very interesting point, this gender gap of the payment of the wages that they're getting. There's a gap in between there. How do you think, can you move this mission forward and create the less of a gap or no gap? What do you think initiatives should be? What are the kind of initiatives that should be taken for this?
Sorry, go ahead.
Rupa?
I think one is clearly around education of women and of men, in terms of perceptions as well. And it isn't just male perceptions of women, it's also female perceptions. That how many of us, the women on this call, would say we would be happy going out to be the primary wage earner and to have our husbands as house husbands? And if we have any kind of issue with that role model, do we then think it's unfair of men to feel that they perhaps want women at home? So society has changed, and it used to be the case that in most families there was one male primary breadwinner and there was a female who stayed at home. And now we're finding that actually, at least in the UK, women and girls are graduating at higher rates. They are getting better marks, and they're progressing very well through the world in the West. And where the fall off happens is really when they go and have children and have families. So there's a lot of, the social contract that we have with government in terms of maternity versus paternity pay and the acceptability of men taking out 6 months that really, I think, would drive a positive change for women. So I think it's a combination of changing attitudes, education, legislation, and multiple different stakeholders across society, corporates, investors, as Rupa said, and us as individuals really starting to challenge ourselves on why we think in a specific way.
Brilliant. And I think I really take your point on board, Rupal, by you saying that not only men looking at evaluating at women, but women themselves questioning, are we happy to do this? Are we going to do this? Are we going to work towards this event or towards our life to be a better life? And I think sometimes women also have to recognize that other women can be successful and be inspired by them. So I think that's a great point here. In fact, Rupa, I wanted to ask you, and I missed that question with you, what is inspiring you right now? Why are you doing what you're doing? Like Rupal shared her views, I'd love to hear your views too. And in fact, the audience would love to hear that too.
Absolutely. So why I'm getting involved in International Women's Day?
International Women's Day, and also what you are doing in your professional life.
Yeah.
What is inspiring you to do what you're doing?
Yeah. So I think, I think I'm inspired by, I'm inspired to get involved. I had the amazing opportunity like 4 years ago, like Rupal said, to be invited to participate in this incredible platform that we've had exposure to. And one of the things that inspires me is the people that we meet each year and the stories that we hear, and the fact that if everyone that comes and attends can walk away with one piece of change, one piece of something that they choose to challenge. And like I said before, that could be in the home, that can be in the workplace, that could be just observing that another colleague is facing a situation that you might not have even been aware of before until the education. So I think that's really important. In terms of like what inspires me professionally, I, as an entrepreneur for 7 years, found it a very different level playing field for women versus men. And so what inspires me today is really to support female founders and underrepresented founders who are starting their journey today, and really look to support them, whether that's in their fundraising efforts with investors, whether that's in helping them scale their businesses. But that's something that feel very passionate about.
Perfect. In fact, that very nicely leads to my next question. And I will start with Rupa, you first, and then Rupal. So Rupa, the first question gets addressed to you. In your opinion, you are doing all these good things that you're able to do, but what more can be done to inspire women to follow their dreams, pursue their dreams, achieve success, and be ambitious, especially in the British Asian community or the British Indian community? What more do you think should be done?
It's a great question, and I'm going to start by being inspired by Rupal's previous answer, but I do think it belongs to all of us, and that includes men as well. So men can really play their part, in today's generation, in supporting their wives, in supporting, their family members. And so I think that just having the family set up support is really important. Like Rupal and I have both been really blessed with parents that have supported us to have careers and, really progress. And then obviously now we've had from Lord and Lady Popat this amazing platform as well. So we've had that blessing, but the idea is that if more people can have that, I think that's the beginning. Secondly, I'd say for me, mentorship and role models, it's something I spoke about actually a couple of years ago at International Women's Day. It's so important, because if you can't see, how can you believe it's possible? So, I'm not from the US, but when Kamala Harris became vice president, that was a moment that I felt really proud. I felt really inspired, because it was a new glass ceiling that was being broken. And each time, if we can observe around us, if we can see what's happening around us, if we can find mentorship, role models, and celebrate these milestones of other women who are achieving these breakthroughs, I think that's really, really powerful, to show more girls and to show more women what is possible.
Brilliant. Lovely answer to that.
Maybe, Dr. Lalit, I can take a different tack. So I agree with everything Rupa said, but
yes.
Two things. One is, I think there is often an assumption, to your point, that women are less confident and less ambitious, and we need to sort of fix the women and inspire women. And it's interesting to me that a lot of research shows that women are ambitious. And I think particularly in the British Indian community, much comes down to identity. So when one gets married, there's it's almost like in our community, we expect women to lose their identity, and I think this is happening a lot less now than it used to, but perhaps in our mothers and our grandmothers' generation. I know in, there are individuals when they get married, their name is changed because they're already, there's already a Rupal in the family. So from henceforth, you shall be known as, Poonam, because we like the name Poonam. But would that happen if, to my husband Jiten, if he were to get married and my brother was a Jiten, would his name be changed? So that these things are happening less. But I think what is not happening less is when women sadly lose a life partner. And I know this is something that Lord Popat has really helped draw attention to. But women may be ambitious to carry on with their social life, with their work or whatever they might be doing if they once they sadly lose their life partner, if their husband passes away. But I think there's a sense from our community that when a husband dies, a woman's identity dies with it. And the same is not true for men when they lose their female life partners. In terms of the judgment of, the clothes that they might wear. Are they wearing bright clothes soon after their partners passed away? Or are they going out to social functions? Do they not really miss their partner? So I think we can challenge ourselves as a community to judging others, particularly women. And the second thing I'd say, just building on Rupa's point about men speaking up, is it was very interesting to me to read in the Academy of Management journal that said that if women or people of colour speak up in the workplace about diversity, it negatively impacts their career and their compensation. Whereas when white men speak up, they are listened to. And that brings me back to Lord and Lady Popat, that they occupy quite a unique place, I would say, in the British Indian community, sort of spanning the elder generation who they're respected by, as well as the younger generation, and being able to sort of work with both men and women in an appropriate way. So I think there's a lot for people in dominant positions, i.e. men, to speak up on behalf of women.
A great point made there, Rupal. A very good point made there. And would you say, how would this particular aspect take place? How would you encourage this so that men can also talk about it?
I think being open to listening. So I shall use my husband as a great example. We went to some friend's house and the women had all served the children and the men had been, I think, chatting or watching some football. And then the women cleared up the children's plates and then we set the table again for the men, and then the men and women sat together. And then the men stayed in their seats and the women again started clearing up for a second time while the men sat. And my husband didn't say anything, but he just got up and started helping out. And it just changed the dynamic. Versus had I said something, I would have probably been characterized as the bolshy feminist. So I think being open to just conversation, I suppose, is how I think it will practically take place. And good on you for convening this and being so open to hosting something on International Women's Day, because I know that men can be really afraid that they're going to get bashed over their head by women saying they're sexist. So we really appreciate and respect you for convening this.
Oh, that's a pleasure. I must say that even in my clinic, Rupal and Rupa, I have more females working with me than men. So I'm just in a minority in my clinic also, but it's a pleasure. I think as much as we believe in, also in our Hindu tradition, that Devi is Shakti. Shakti is the power, and the power is worshipped. In the Hindu religion, in the Hindu tradition, it all starts from worshipping a woman. So why things have changed when we all appeared on earth, I have no idea. But the divinity says, worship the Shakti, worship the feminine energy. And Krishna wanted to enjoy the feminine energy. That's why he created the feminine energy. And that is the reason why I just have no idea why women are being or are not being treated equally, and more, in fact. We should be respecting women even more. Because ultimately they are none other than the power and the Shakti that comes to us. So yes, absolutely. Very happy to host an event like this. And I think it's a great thing. Not forgetting, we earlier spoke about International Women's Day, but there is also the International Men's Day, I believe. That is on the 19th of November. So that is also celebrated, but obviously I think the gender issue is there. These are things that we need to look into. We need to move into times and understand each other better. And you girls are doing a wonderful job of conveying that message today. So that's great. In fact, it takes me to my next question. Again, for both of you, I'll start with Rupa again. One of the greatest injustice that is being done is the lack of access of education to women or providing for women. We all know that world would be a much better place if all girls went to school. You've been lucky, both of you, and so many others who have had parents who have encouraged them to go for further education and supported them through their lives, through education, through marital status, through everything. But what can we do? There are still 61 million girls across the world who are between the ages of 5 and 14 who are deprived of education. Countries like Nigeria, Afghanistan, Pakistan, there are millions of girls who never get the chance to even enter a classroom. What can you advise for that? What are your suggestions for that?
Thanks, Dr. Lalit. It's a really good question. And I think the numbers are astonishing of how many girls are outside globally, outside of the school system. And in countries, you know, we see around the world where there's conflict, where there's poverty, all of these sorts of things, it's even more, it's twice as likely that girls living in these countries will not be going to school after primary school. I think for, like, better educated women, as we know, and we have seen the results of, tend to be more informed about nutrition, about healthcare, about, you know, children. They may marry at a later age, have children who are healthier. All of these things, they may go into the labor market, earn a higher income. You know, educating a girl, educating a woman, it means you're lifting up a whole household, a whole community, and countries out of poverty. So I think it's vital that this is addressed, and there's so many wonderful organizations doing, you know, so much incredible work. And I'll just give one example. So the charity which I've been working with in Pune since 2008, but what we did there was in the Yoroda slum, where it was more cost effective for parents to send their children out to beg, because they would bring home a living for them, and then it was to send them to school. So what we did there is we built an education center in the heart of the slum, and we paid for the girls to go to school, paid for their uniform, paid for their meals. And every day after school, they had to come to the education center to do their homework. So the way that it worked is the organization persuaded the parents that it's not going to cost you a thing. You're not going to make money by sending your 6-year-olds out to work, but it's not going to cost you a thing, and your child is going to get an education. And so what happened is it was a word of mouth. The whole community one by one started saying, our children are going to school, and Ashraya are funding that. And it, you know, it grew from momentum in that way. So that's a really small example. You know, we're talking about, you know, 100 million plus girls that need education, but there is at community level lots of things like that we can do.
Rupal, if I may direct a question to you. We are having some amazing comments on the chat box. Rupa and Rupal, you're the shining stars, you're brilliant achievement. So I just wanted to know, ladies, that that's being said about you. And really and truly, it is true. Because today you young girls are standing up and saying this to the whole wide world. Let's do something amazing. And that's what you're doing by setting an example and doing it. So my question to you, Rupal, would be, is this particular school of thought that Rupa mentioned in the slums area, how can people hear about it more? How can people be inspired more to do such things and to spread this word and to educate those girls? Do you have some ideas how we could share this with the world?
I think the Indian community is such a generous community, and it's part of our culture to give to others. We have traditionally given reactively. So, you know, there's a crisis in Bhuj and the Indian community raises money. And it's not actually that easy to know where to give money to drive change. So one might give to build a school, or you give to a partner that you trust. But understanding that actually the challenge is that the girls aren't getting to school because they're worried about rape along the way, or there's such a taboo around periods that a girl doesn't go to school when she has her period. So I think one way for all of us to get more involved is to learn about the sorts of charities and grassroots organizations that are really doing great work, because we're frankly sitting over here in comfortable UK without a real understanding of what the issues are. So I think finding positive partners to work through is really important.
Brilliant. And best way to spread this word is obviously today the social media platform is a great way to do it. But the more we spread this word, the more people are inspired to do that. And I think this is the best way to spread this information all around. So thank you for sharing that. I was going to move on to my next point, Rupal. I'm going to address this with you first, is that we have an amazing bank over here called the Synergy Bank that's owned by a very well-known British Indian family, the Demeter family. they did some research recently, which was reported in the Times, that found that men were 50% more likely to inherit a small family business than any woman would inherit that. Why shouldn't girls be the same as boys when inheritance comes? Is it indefensible? It is compatible with the values of today, and yet we persist in doing that. Why should not the girls inherit the same as men do? Any thoughts on that, Rupal?
Yeah, I think again it comes down to identity. It's that your daughter is going to leave. She's with you for a little bit of time, and then she leaves the family, and so everything is about the son. And I think most people here would say that it's not that. Some people joke, oh well, my daughter looks after me more than my son, but actually daughters and sons look after their parents, and it doesn't need to be a competition. I know that with my brother and my hubby and my sister, we all, and our relative respective husbands, we all care about our parents, and likewise on my husband's side, everybody cares. So I think this idea that you don't see your parents as much as you see your parents, or you've left your family, you're less a part of the family, is one that we need to challenge. And I think girls are challenging it, but sometimes perhaps swinging too far. I also think that we have an equal responsibility to both sides. And I think the generation before, they were more on their husband's side, and perhaps the generation now is too much on their own parents' side. And we should genuinely treat our husband's family as our own. So I think much of this inheritance issue comes down to the fact that people think of girls as only a part of their lives for a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. Rupa, would love to hear your views on this particular question.
Absolutely. And I think we first of all speak from a place of privilege. So I grew up in a household, and I'm very fortunate that I was treated equally by my parents with my brother at all times. From a business perspective, we from a young age, we were encouraged to pursue our passions in business and so on. And then when I joined the Popat family, I also got another equal setting. So whether it's age, gender, all of these things, we all get an equal voice in the family. And I think that's really amazing. And again, like I said, it's from a place of privilege, but it's not that way, as Rupal said, for every family. And I think the beginning of it is acknowledging exactly what Rupal said. So, the daughter leaving the household, today it's about families merging. And if you can change that mindset inside, and you can, imagine that you're actually bringing more family together, as opposed to the daughter just leaving and saying goodbye to her parents, I think that that is the beginning of this changing the mindset. And then the second part to any change is awareness in the first place. So just even us having this conversation, and you bringing this conversation to us today, I think is the beginning of that.
Brilliant. Thank you for that. Now, this next question is also on inheritance. But for this one, I certainly wish we had Lord Popat addressing this particular issue also. But I would like the view of both of you. What are your thoughts on the centuries-old practice that aristocratic titles, including in the House of Lords, can only be inherited by the male descendant?
Yeah, thanks, Dr.
Because
Lalit.
if you're in that family, I'm going to address this question to you first.
I am happy to, and as Rupal is being unmuted, I'm happy to take the question. So it's a really good question, and I know that my father-in-law is extremely passionate about it, as is Councillor Amit Jogia, and all of us. But it really just is that the last state-sponsored act of discrimination. So there's been so much evolution in the political landscape, and even in 2011, the British monarchy had abolished this rule. And so, this last act of hereditary peers having this opportunity is really just almost like the last piece of the puzzle. And, as the Conservative Party really work on embracing more women and work on bringing, shedding more to light, I think that solving this would be part of, that process. So.
Wonderful. And Rupal, the same question addressed to you. Your thoughts on this particular aristocratic title?
Nothing further to add. Rupa said it all brilliantly. Well done to Lord Popat and Lady Popat and Councillor Amit Jogia for continuing to drive positive change, particularly in the Tory party.
Brilliant. Yeah, so we do need change drivers over there, and they're doing a very good job of that. So once again, yes, point taken and a very well addressed point. The next question that goes out to both of you, if you just bear with me, it's regarding this aging population research that had recently taken place in the recent report of the aging population, which actually you both co-authored it. It focused on gender inequality, especially the taboo of the Indian widows remarrying. It seems to be okay for the man to get married, but when it comes to remarry rather, and when it comes to a woman to remarry, it's looked at upon as a taboo of that. What do you think about that? Rupal, if I may address that first to you.
I'm not sure, this isn't necessarily, I clearly think that we need to, as I mentioned earlier, not assume that when a woman's husband dies, that everything dies with her, or indeed, as someone commented on the chat, that women who, for whatever reason, are not married are any lesser of women. I think we need to respect women the same way that we do with men, and we need to, there's multiple things that need to be done to enable that. In the report, we talked tangibly about education seminars being held at some of our centres, and also digital platforms. There are digital dating sites for the younger generation, and one of the ideas that was posed by I think one of the people who were interviewed was having something similar, perhaps around companionship more rather than dating, for those of an older generation, which I think, you know, would be, I'm not in that situation, but I think that that would be a wonderful thing for us to consider.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. And that should be a great consideration and a great thought given to that too. Rupa, how about you giving your light on that particular comment?
Yeah, I agree completely with Rupal. As we continue to work together on these programs, I think we also in a lot of ways align in terms of our own thinking. So, you know, I feel strongly that there is these biases that are inherent in our community, and whether that's, you know, a widow, whether that's, you know, even myself, you know, as I met my husband at 34, and before that there was this societal almost pressure that, oh, is everything okay? Why aren't you married yet? And I think, you know, it's always worth waiting for the right person, and we should never ever pressurize girls as well to, you know, to get married for the wrong reasons and those sorts of things, because it's so important, you know, picking the right life partner. And in the same way, you know, I agree completely, you know, with what Rupal's saying in terms of with widows, you know, life doesn't stop then. It's really just a new beginning, and it's really about, it's just us changing our awareness and our mindset and checking ourselves. So, you know, when we are hopefully soon at social gatherings again in person, you know, when we're speaking to someone who might have gone through something like this, you know, just being aware of our own language and our own wording and the way that we address certain things, you know, is for us to check ourselves and work on that ourselves. And that hopefully starts to create that awareness and that change over time.
And Dr. Lalit, just to add to that, I think women have a really strong role to play here. Women can often be the worst judges of other women. Sometimes men don't normally even notice. And it's often the women who are organizing the social functions, and then they perhaps assume that a woman who's recently widowed wouldn't want to be invited, and so they don't encourage them. Or there's a group of couples who are all going on holiday together, and they don't include a woman who's by themselves because they think perhaps that she might not feel she wants to. But actually, we as women can really support each other, not judge each other, and speak up loudly. We women tend to be greater talkers than our male counterparts, at least certainly in my world. So we can really support our fellow sisters, aunties, kakis, mummies, and all the people in our own lives.
Rupal, I tend to totally agree with you on that point and that subject, and I hope people are listening to this wide and wide so that they can get the message that encourage these people to do that. You know, as Rupa said, it's not the end of a life once you're a widow, it's the beginning of a new life. It's a different life, but we've got to challenge that and do the best that we are here for. Can I say one thing? I just want to read out a comment that has come up on the chat box, and it's a very, very inspirational comment. And this is from Primrose Magala. And she says, very warm greetings to everyone, esteemed delegates and hosts. I am privileged to be here today listening to Rupal and Rupa in amazing learning. It's an amazing learning experience, inspiring confidence and strong female leadership. Thank you so much, Lord Popat, and all the community leaders who are here, a great legacy. Primrose, thank you for saying such a loud comment, amazing comment, and very, very truly inspired and thankful to you for putting that comment on the chat box. Okay, so we are fast approaching time coming to an end, and I really want to address two questions, and they're going to be very quick. Last one, second last question actually, moving on to the political field and moving into politics. Is this a welcome place for women? Does access to networking opportunities still prevent many more participating in the political process and holding office? Rupa, would you share that light first, and then Rupal, would we ask you to do that?
Yeah, I think what I would start with is that I myself am not in the political space, but having seen the work that's being done by the family, that there is increasing work being done by the Conservative Party and government on engaging more women at different areas of at different areas of public life and public appointment. There is a really keen engagement to have more women. I think we've got role models in other countries, like in Rwanda, where over 50% of women are already in parliament, are already women. And I think that we have got progress to make, but I think that progress is taking place in steps right now.
Brilliant. Thanks for sharing that point, Rupa. Rupal, your view on that, please.
Two different points, because Rupa's covered that side so well. If you ever, well, the papers recently covered that the law had to be changed in order for a woman to take her 6 months maternity leave, because otherwise she would have had to leave her role as MP and then be re-elected. So we can see that there's still a lot of antiquated law in place that discriminates against women, and this is common in many countries in the world. It's not just in the UK. So I think politics is a difficult place for women to be, not just culturally but also legislatively. And culturally, if you ever tune into Prime Minister's questions, it's quite amazing. We've come to accept how it works, but it's like people braying at each other. It seems like a very aggressive, shouting environment, and one can understand why women tend to communicate in different ways, that it doesn't feel like a particularly welcoming environment for somebody who is more on the feminine side, be they male or female.
Brilliant. I think the move forward with Kamala Harris coming into her seat, with having had Margaret Thatcher with us, with having had Indira Gandhi with us, I think women are definitely there in politics. I think we just have to do it. And I think that's the main message. Now, before we close with today's session, I still have one final question for both of you. Would you want to tell us more about your most amazing event that's taking place on Friday, the 5th of March, commemorating the International Women's Day? Rupa, a minute for you to answer that, and then Rupal, a minute to answer that, please.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Lalit. We would love to have all of you participate and attend on Friday. It's on Friday, 5th of March. It's at 1 p.m. If you scroll to the top of the chat box, you'll find the registration form there and also the brochure of all the speakers. There will be 12 speakers speaking for 5 minutes each. And we have it follows parliamentary protocol. So we will be stopping speeches, as would happen in the parliamentary chambers, at the 5-minute mark. So yeah, welcome to all of you, and we look forward to sharing this platform with you.
Thank you, Rupa. Thank you for telling us about it. Rupal, would you want to share something about that amazing event?
Nothing more. Come and join in. Let us know how it can be improved and get involved.
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. So happy, so excited for you ladies to be celebrating this event, and to all the women who've joined on this Zoom session, who are listening to us live on Facebook, on YouTube. A very happy International Women's Day to you all. And let me say, most men, if not all, we are all behind you and celebrating this eventful day with you. So really delighted with that. Now, before we go to the next one, I want one important message from Rupa and one important message for Rupal for the women who are celebrating this day. Rupa, shall we start with you? One message for the women for the International Women's Day.
Sure. I'll say, yeah, one message for everyone really is, it doesn't have to be big change or big progress. Let's all pick something, whether it's in our home, in our workplace, in our community, and let's start making those small steps to progress.
Brilliant. Thank you. And Rupal?
Yeah. Let's choose to challenge ourselves to change. Like Gandhi says, the greatest change that you can drive in the world is changing oneself.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for these messages. You ladies have been absolutely brilliant. And as we were talking when we were hosting this session, it's a Rupa duo that turned out amazing for this amazing International Women's Day celebration. But one of the beauty about participating in our MINLA Zoom session is our most loved rapid fire round. Ladies, are you game for this?
Yeah. Bring it on.
So I'm going to direct questions to each one of you, starting with Rupal Sachdev Kantaria, and then we'll move to Rupa Ganatra Popat. And it's going to be a quick question, a quick answer. No thinking there. What comes to your mind comes out. Are we okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So welcome to the Zoom session, the MINLA Zoom session, rapid fire round with Rupa and Rupal. Rupal, the first question goes to you. Motherhood.
A great blessing.
Rupa, education.
Equal opportunity.
Rupal, the Self-Realization Fellowship, SRF.
The fastest path to God.
Rupa, way to go. Rupa, Mother Teresa.
Compassion and selflessness.
Rupal, women empowerment, as we call Nari Shakti.
A man and woman's opportunity.
Rupa, COVID-19 pandemic.
Good riddance.
Rupal, gratitude.
A key to a happy life.
Rupa, spirituality.
A blessed way of life.
Rupal, who inspires you?
Paramahansa Yogananda.
Ah, brilliant. Rupa, who inspires you?
I'd say my parents and my in-laws.
Brilliant. Rupal, social media.
To be used in moderation.
Today, that's the only way to get about, isn't it? Great. Rupa, vegetarian or non-vegetarian?
No judgment, whatever makes people happy.
Rupal, gender equality.
A massive opportunity and a basic human right.
Rupa, Kamala Harris.
Role model of the future.
Rupal, Malala Yousafzai.
Fearless.
Last question, but not the least. Rupa, you're the next to answer. Dr. Lalit Soda's rapid fire round.
Oh, thoroughly enjoyable.
Rupal, the same question goes to you.
A lot of fun.
Thank you. Ladies, thank you so much for coming on our MINLA Zoom session, inspiring and motivating people all across the globe. Today, you have added so much value to our session, especially commemorating the International Women's Day. I'm truly thankful to Lord Popat, who initiated this initiative to get onto a Zoom session. Lord Popat, Lady Popat, thank you very much for that. And all the assistance I received with Amit Jogia. Amit, I thank you humbly from this floor for assisting me in this Zoom session. I now take this session forward by actually asking our lovely lady, because this session doesn't begin without her blessings, neither does it end today without her vote of thanks. So may I request our lovely lady, Nina Ben Kagram, to say a few words of thanks. And in fact, prior to she coming on to a vote of thanks, I've just jumped a step faster than I should have. May I request Lord Popat to say a few words towards this session. Lord Popat, if I may humbly request you to do that.
Thank you, Lalit. Thank you for hosting this program. In fact, it's very timely. This week is Women's International Day, and I'm pleased Rupal and Rupa are organizing this event. Normally, for last many years, we have it in Parliament. We're doing it virtually because of pandemic. And the good news is that we got about 800 people registered just on Zoom, but obviously on Facebook and YouTube, we expect about 2,000 plus people to be listening to this International Women's Day. We've got eminent speaker, Jay Shetty, that Rupal mentioned. And of course, George Harris's daughter is there as well, the chief executive of NatWest Bank. So quite good eminent speakers speaking on that. But today's session showed that no country or no community can flourish, do well if it leaves half its population behind. And this is a message from those speakers and from Rupa and Rupa's purpose of hosting this in the mother of all parliaments. In fact, a woman comes in many roles: a mother, a daughter-in-law, sister, wife, companion, you name it. And it's important that we are all equal and we should all progress very well. I mean, you know, we ourselves are ranked number 7 in the world when it comes to gender equality. Of course, we have a problem with our aristocratic family, which I'm sure Boris Johnson will sort it out. And you can see we have had 2 British prime ministers, both women, Margaret Thatcher and Theresa May. If there are any Labour supporters, the score is 2-0, by the way. So that's good news from my party's point of view. And of course, there's undoubtedly been much progress. We see Kamala Harris now become the Vice President of the United States. So we are making progress. And the purpose of the debate on the 5th is to help draw attention to the serious challenges that women still face here and around the world. We mentioned about Pakistan, Bangladesh. So I urge people to join. Before I conclude, Lalit, you mentioned Primrose Magala. She is actually Ugandan.
Okay.
We talked about education. Rupal took education, the key thing in this developing or underdeveloped countries. But one thing we did as British government, we wrote off all the debt to Uganda. Some 8 years ago, I give credit to Baroness Vadera, who did that when she was the Secretary of State for International Development. On a condition, Uganda gives free primary education, secondary education to all its citizens. And I'm a trade envoy, and I do observe and notice and monitor, and that's happening. So there's a lot we can do to give free education to young children right across the world. Lalit, thank you for hosting. I urge people listening, tell others to join. It's something you'll enjoy. You know, despite pandemic, we're having it, and I'm pleased to say we'll be having about 2,000 plus people listening to this program, to this debate with the parliamentary protocol. So please welcome and join. You know, and Mina and Lalit both thank you for having these 2 wonderful girls who are inspiration to so many people. And thank you to them for organizing this event, which I consider to be very important.
Thank you so much, Lord Popat. Lady Popat is lovely sitting next to you. Can we have a few seconds words from her? Humbly request you to do that, Lord Sandhya Ben Popat, Lady Sandhya Ben Popat.
I think my husband has said all actually. There is not much more I can say other than what Rupal and Rupa said. But we started it 4 years ago, as Rupal and Rupa said, and it has taken, they've taken this, this event to a different level now, which is nice. And the whole aim is that we bring awareness to people, more people, that there is so much more that can be done at even a smaller level. So I'm very proud that my cousin Rupal and my daughter-in-law Rupa both are supporting us.
Wonderful. What a great mission and what a great achievement. You as parents, parents-in-law have done a wonderful job. We need more of an encouragement, more inspirational parents like yourselves to encourage the future generation. And these are two prime Rup duo who are doing an amazing job for the International Women's Day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. But before we end the session, we have our lovely Meena-ben Kagram to give a vote of thanks. And once again, Meena-ben, if you can get a chance to highlight Amit Jogia, please spotlight him, because we absolutely owe him a big thank you too, while you say your thank you message. I put Meena-ben on spot, bless her. She's such a lovely lady. She's the one who's controlling everything from there. So she's going to get her little host help, Ellie, to spotlight Amit Jogia. And interestingly enough, today is the day she lost her glasses that she's normally wearing. So eyesight is a bit of an issue. Meena-ben, unmute yourself and let's hear a few vote of thanks for the two lovely ladies.
Thank you. I don't see Amit. I saw him before, but I don't think so he's here.
Okay.
He's there.
Let me look it up. If you can see
Yeah.
Amit, he can spotlight him. Unmute yourself, Meena-ben. Okay, Meena-ben, we need to unmute yourself so you can do the vote of thanks.
Yeah.
There you go. Lovely.
Okay, I would like to introduce my old man here, who only stays in golf club. That's Ramesh Kagram.
Hi, everybody.
See, girls, these are the freedom I am enjoying in this part of the world. Global Namaskar again to all. Welcome. No, this is the wrong one. Where is my other one?
Meena-ben, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You go ahead.
I am. This is my humble duty to thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Dr. Lalit and myself, MINLA Group. Like to thank Lord Dollar Popat, our great supporter. Thank you, yet another supporter of our session, and Rupa and Rupal, twin partner, I would say Rup. They help the world's ladies' empowerment. So proud of you, Rup. Lots of blessings. Thank you all. Thank you, Ellie, my cute cousin, Dr. Lalit Soda, Asandi Sana, Kwaheri, and good evening to everybody.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining in. Thank you for all the positive comments that we received on the chat box. The Rup event has been a great success. So ladies, all the best to you for the 5th of March. And let's say Kwaheri and a very goodbye. Have a lovely sunny day in London. Enjoy yourselves. A global namaskar. Thank you.
We're going to thank everybody around here, right here.
Okay, Meena-ben, you go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, I've got to take leave because I'm